We listen, we don't get scared, and we don't judge. Let me tell you guys a story time of this hairdresser that stole my cousin's man using muti. First of all, my cousin told me the story and I'm going to narrate it like I was there, so do not get confused. My cousin loved to braid her hair at this hairdresser. She really loved her or whatever. You know, they used to talk about anything and everything, like my cousin trusted her or whatever. And she would bring her man around sometimes and they would all have a conversation. And she would talk about her boyfriends and they would advise her. Everybody would laugh, kiki, haha. Everything was cool. Like, my cousin's boyfriend would come when she's like halfway there, or like there's like a quarter left, and then he'd come, he'd sit and wait for her, and then they would leave together or whatever. One day, my cousin's boyfriend is like, he received a text from this particular hairdresser, and the hairdresser basically asked her where my cousin was, and he was like, oh, I don't know where she is. And then he proceeded to confess her feelings for him. She was like, hey, I really like you, blah, blah, blah. And my cousin's man was not having it. And he was like, listen, I bring my girl to your salon all the time, which means I have a girlfriend, which means I have a partner. What do you mean? Like, and then she didn't respond. And then like 5 or 10 minutes later, she texts my cousin's boyfriend. It's like, hey, I am so sorry. Like, my phone got hacked or whatever. And my cousin's boyfriend was like, it's crazy because she says that she was hacked, but the hacker knew too many specific details about him. You know, like, who hacks your phone and says things like this? And they know things that a hacker would not know. I don't know if that makes sense, but yeah. Because my cousin loved this hairdresser so much and she loved her work, she didn't trust any other hairdresser, she decided to look over it and was like, hey, listen, she was hacked. Okay, let's just take it at that. I think a week or two later, my cousin goes to go braid her hair. And, you know, they're talking as usual. Boy comes to pick her up, they leave. As soon as they go inside my cousin's car, my cousin was 27 by the way at that time. They enter the car, guys. And as soon as they enter the car, my cousin is like, something came over her and she just started to despise her boyfriend like nobody's business. Like, she hated everything that he did, the way he closed the door, the way he drove, the way he spoke. He complimented her and it felt like an insult. Like, she was just mad at this dude. And she's like, as time went by, like as the days went by, she just started to despise this boy. She didn't know why. And she basically broke up with the guy a week later and was like, listen, this is not working out, whatever. And she's like, the guy actually agreed with her and was like, yeah, like I feel the same way. When people obviously asked my cousin, why did you break up with so-and-so? Like, you guys had like a good relationship. And she was like, I don't know. Like they both didn't have a reason. Another week goes by and guess what? Hairdresser and my cousin's now ex-boyfriend are in a relationship. Dun, dun, dun. They are in a happy relationship, whatever. And one time my cousin was at the mall. She didn't care about this boy like whatsoever. She didn't even think to fight this girl. Like, she just saw everything as normal. And she also still was braiding her hair at this girl's salon. And she kept on justifying it to people like, girl, this girl stole your man. Practically stole your man. Like, aren't you mad? And she was like, no, like, if they love each other, let them date each other, whatever. One time she's at the mall, she meets the guy's friend. She's like, dog, like, what happened between so and so? And my cousin again gives the same wacko story, like, I don't know, like, we grew apart. And they're like, that was quick. And she's like, dog, like, you should actually look into these people's relationships or whatever. I mean, or whatever. And you speak to her, to so-and-so's mother, her ex-boyfriend again. You speak to the mother, bruh. Go tell that mother that something is happening. Like, her son is not the same anymore. Number one, her son is irritating as hell. Like, we can't tolerate him for some reason.
The baby eater. When I was 5 months pregnant, I lived in a trailer park surrounded by neighbors, and to the right of me was a woman named Miss Kim, who was Filipino, and her husband, Mr. John, who was a white man. I was 19 and they were in their early 60s, and they were so wise. They were always coming over with food and offering advice. Especially when she found out I was pregnant, she would say, you and baby need to eat. She kept me fed 24/7. She didn't want me doing anything while pregnant. If she saw me doing something like heavy lifting, she would come take over. One day I look out the window and I see Miss Kim pouring corns out on the front porch and the doorsteps, and I asked her why she was doing that. She said it was for the spirits, and towards the end of the month, we'll gather gather them up and give them to the neighborhood kids. I mean tons of change, probably over $100 that she would give away every month. Around 6 months pregnant, I start having these really vivid nightmares about this big monster trying to get in the house and take my unborn baby. One of these monsters was big and had half a body. It looked like the top half had been ripped away from the bottom half. There was no butt or legs. It was only a head, shoulders, torso with a spine hanging out and big wings, and it flew around like that. Usually it had bat wings, but sometimes it had angel wings. It just depended on the nightmare. The worst part was I would dream that this thing would perch on the side of the trailer and stick its needle-like nose through the wall and pierce my belly and suck the baby out and eat it, and I could see this happening, but I couldn't move. I was like paralyzed. Sometimes I would wake up with that feeling on the back of my neck like it was standing right there. I felt like it was so close to me. These nightmares got so bad that I went to the doctor and they prescribed me Ambien, but I was too scared to take it because Ambien is a very strong medication, so I never took it. I went to Miss Kim to ask her what I could take that would be safe for the baby because she had a lot of knowledge on herbal remedies. I told her what I'd been dreaming about, and she said that's a meningog or a meningo. I can't pronounce it, but either way, it's a baby eater. It steals a baby from your womb. I know I butchered that word. It's been so long since I've heard it, so feel free to correct me in the comments. She said that needle you saw is not its nose, that's its tongue. That's how it sucks the baby out of you, and it uses that to pierce through walls and ceilings to get to you. But what was crazy to me was how she could explain my nightmares to me without me even telling her because she knew exactly what this was and what it was after. She said I can ease some of the nightmares, but they won't completely go away, but we'll have to do some things to protect the baby and scare this thing off. So she goes to the feed store and gets 2 big giant bags of pure salt and brings it home and pours it all the way around the trailer, every doorway, window, even threw it on the roof. And she gets a bunch of garlic out of her garden and puts it on thread and hangs it all around the house. She told me to sleep with garlic under my pillow and hold one in my hand and keep it with me at all times, so I did as much as I can remember to. She was up on the roof with a yardstick, put one of these things up over my bedroom, and it did ease my nightmares up. My nightmares went from very vivid and graphic to very hazy and not as often, and I started getting more sleep. Whatever she did helped my morning sickness too, no joke. Now, Miss Kim would tell me don't go out at night or this thing will get you, but I didn't know if it was even real, and sometimes I had to go out at night because I had things to do. So one night we're coming back from a baby shower around 9:30 at night, and we pull up in the driveway. I'm dozing off, and I see this big winged creature flying around the trees, so I jump and say, what the hell was that? And my partner slammed on brakes and said, you saw it too? I thought it was a giant buzzard. That thing was huge. But it was so dark, and it's in North Carolina. We didn't know if it was a big-ass bat, buzzard, or what it was, so we just sat in the car for a minute and wait. We pull up behind the house, and I look over and see Miss Kim and Mr. John standing on their back porch, and Miss Kim's holding a shotgun, and when I get out the car, she said, I told you not to go out after dark. It's here. Get in the house. So I took off running in the house because I was scared. All 4 of us saw whatever it was flying around the trailer park that night. The next day, we come outside, and we find these big, tall bamboo sticks that have sharpened ends like big spears, and they've been jobbed down in the ground, so if anything lands on the trailer, it'll hit these spears first. Miss Kim and her husband had been out back cutting bamboo down in the woods, making spears out of them, just in case this thing tried to land on one of them.
I had a whole conversation with someone that I thought was my husband. A follower named Lupe sent me this spooky story, and she says that one night her and her husband were driving home from work, and she didn't really feel like cooking dinner. They had some leftover food from the night before, and she told her husband, well, I can just make a rice, we can have a quick dinner, and we can call it a night. Her husband was like, that's cool, I'm tired anyways, like, I am so down for that. They get home and they both enter through the back door, and she says that the back door leads them almost directly to the kitchen. So she stayed in the kitchen and she saw that her husband went somewhere, but she's not stalking him to see like exactly what he's doing. So she's minding her business. She starts on the rice, and then a few minutes after, her husband comes up to her in the kitchen, and he is staring right at her. Weirdly, I might add. He looks into her eyes, so serious, and tells her, can you come with me to the restroom and help me shave the back of my neck? And she's like, okay, yeah, let me just finish making this rice and I'll be right there. She says that she looks at him because he doesn't say okay, he doesn't nod, he doesn't say okay, yeah, that's fine. He just turns around and walks to the restroom. She finishes the rice. She goes into the restroom, and the restroom is dark. The light is not on, so she's like, goes and checks the bedroom. Nobody there. She opens the back door. It's dark. The car is still there. She's like, where did this guy go? So she walks around into the living room, and he is laying on the couch in the living room. She said that she approaches him and tells him, hey, let's go to the restroom so I can help you shave your neck. And he's like, what? And she's like, I already finished the rice. Hurry up so we can eat dinner. Let's go to the restroom so I can help you shave your neck and we can eat dinner and lay down. And he's like, why would I need your help? What? And she's explaining to him, like, honey, you went to the kitchen, you asked me for help, and I am ready. And he's like, I came straight to this couch. I haven't moved from here. So now she starts explaining everything to him, and he's like, honey, I have not left this couch. I heard you talking to someone in the kitchen, but I thought you were talking on the phone with your mom.
or with your sister. I have not left this couch. Hell no. So you're telling me that Lupe had a whole conversation with something. She didn't state that this ever happened again. I'm sure she would have told me if it did, but how? Why? I don't understand. Like, what is a mimic? What is it? I need someone to explain because I'm freaking out. But thank you so much to Lupe for sending me this spooky story. As always, if you guys have any stories that you'd like for me to read, please send them via DM or email, and I'd love to read them, and I will see you guys in the next spooky story. Bye!
Let's read some more scary stories that were DM'd to us. So I live in my grandparents' old house because my house is on the market. Their house was built in the 1930s, specifically 1936, and I have this tiny closet in my room. And a couple of months after I moved in, I had kept on hearing crying like a baby, and then I did some research on my house. I found out that someone had died there, a mother and a baby. It was unknown how the mother died, but it was suspected that she hung herself after her baby's death, who had died at childbirth. This was a short story, but now I have a mother and a young baby in my room, and I suspect that my room used to be the nursery or the main bedroom. It's really creepy, but they're actually really nice to me. They can't communicate to me verbally, but the mother sometimes comforts me when I'm in pain. So this is creepy, but this is like one of those sweet ones. This person feels like the spirits that they have in their house are actually nice. I feel so bad for the mother and the baby, but I'm really glad that they're not like harming the people who live in the house. And that's really sweet that she's looking after the new person that lives in her old house. Okay, moving on. This story starts with me and my friends. We were around 10 and at a play center. We were near the ball pit, and I looked into the pit to see a kid in there alone. So me being me, I went down there. My friend stayed with some other girl we had met, and I asked if she wanted to play with us. She looked around 5 or 7, and she was alone, and I loved making new friends, so I thought, why not make friends with her? And she said to me, yes, but can we stay here? And I said, of course. And I turned around to shout to my friends. They came over, and I said my new friend wants to play with us, but she wants to stay in the ball pit. And they asked me, what friend? So I turn around to point to her, but she is nowhere to be seen, and I know she didn't leave because ball pits are noisy to get in and out of. So I would have heard her. So I think I encountered a ghost at 10 years old. That is freaky! That's giving like Five Nights at Freddy's or something like that. And this person said that the play center was Pirates Play Center in Nottingham. And they also said that there's like other creepy stories, like people have had other like creepy weird encounters at this place, and when they figure out like more stuff that's happened there, they're gonna let me know. So I will let you know as soon as I know.
You want to hear some scary ass shit? So at the University of North Carolina at Greensboro, there's this girl named Maddie, and she lives in an apartment on campus, and she's been having some weird shit happen inside of this apartment. So, I mean, like, she's noticing like handprints on the bathroom mirror after she takes a shower. She's hearing noises. She's seeing things move around. She notices things are in different spots around her house, but she's freaked out. She doesn't know what to do. And she starts thinking, oh my God, I have a ghost. Like, she legitimately thinks she has a ghost. So one day she's sitting at home and she starts hearing all of this rattling going on in her closet. And she says it sounds like kind of like a raccoon or squirrel or something is trapped in her closet. And so she's sitting there on her couch and she just looks over at her closet and she just goes, who's there? And somebody answers her and she hears this guy go, oh, it's Drew. I'm Drew. So Maddie's freaking the fuck out. And then she goes, are you going to do this? Are you going to hurt me? What are you doing? What are you doing in my house? And he's just the nicest guy. Like, he's kind of shy and he's scared of her. And he's like, no, I'm not going to hurt you. I'm not going to hurt you. When she finds Drew in her closet, he's wearing all of her clothes. I'm talking her socks, her shoes. He's got a book bag full of just her clothes. So Maddie just calmly talks to Drew. She's being very calm and waiting for her boyfriend to get there because she's already called her boyfriend. She's already called the police. He puts on Maddie's hat one of her hats, and then he walks to her bathroom mirror. He looks at himself in the mirror, and then he says to Maddie, "You're really pretty. Can I give you a hug?" And he didn't touch her. She didn't let him hug her, but he sat down, and she said that he just started telling her all about his life, like they were friends, and this was completely normal. And now, this isn't the first time this happened to Maddie in this apartment. There was a time a couple of months before this where she came home and found just two random men sitting in her living room. And this is what prompted her to get a new lease and to leave this specific apartment. But then this happens to her in her next apartment. So this guy Drew is charged with misdemeanor breaking and entering. Maddie's just like, "You guys, I think I have a ghost in my house because I can't find most of my clothes. This whole time Drew is wearing everything."
Can we show him the older homestead?
Yeah, let's go. As you know.
No, it's not. No, it's not. Was that you?
Yeah, that's on either side.
They went to both.
Yeah.
Do you ever get the feeling that you're not alone in your own home? What is that? Apparently I'm also not alone in my own home. So, don't know what that was, but let's get into the story. Anyways, this Reddit user talks about her experiencing having somebody living in her ceiling. So, let's read. "I never believed stories about strangers secretly living in other people's houses. I always assumed they were exaggerated internet tales or mental health cases. But what happened to me last year in Portland changed the way I think about privacy, safety, and what it means to be home alone in your own house. It started with subtle noises. At first, it was just a light tapping above my bedroom late at night. It didn't sound like pipes or an animal. It was way too conscious and too deliberate. I asked my landlord about it, and he brushed it off as if it was just the building settling. Friends joked that it was ghost, or like I was working too much to hear noises, so I ignored it. The tapping didn't stop. It grew more frequent, happening not only late at night, but also in the early mornings too. One morning, I woke up convinced that someone was whispering above me. It was so soft that I couldn't tell if it was real or part of a dream. I tried to convince myself that it was nothing. About a week later, things escalated. The tapping changed location. It wasn't above me anymore. It started coming from inside of the wall next to my bed, then from the direction of the air vent. It sounded like fingertips brushing metal. I turned off my fan to get rid of any background noise, and the room went heavy and silent. Then the breathing started. Slow, controlled breathing. Not the kind of breathing you hear from a neighbor through the wall. This was close. Too close. I stared at the air vent, my heart pounding. I told myself I was imagining it, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. I grabbed my phone and turned on the flashlight, and I aimed it directly at the vent. The moment the light hit the slits, I saw two eyes staring back at me. Human eyes. Wide open, unblinking, reflecting the beam of my flashlight like an animal caught in headlights. I froze in place. The eyes didn't move. The breathing didn't change. It felt like whoever was behind that vent had been staring at me long before I had turned on the light. The vent cover shifted. Not much, but just enough for me to tell that someone's fingers were hooked on the inside of it. My body reacted before my brain could. I grabbed my keys and ran out of my apartment barefoot. I didn't stop until I was in the parking lot calling 911 with my hand shaking. I couldn't stop staring at my bedroom window from the outside. At one point, the light flicked on, then flicked off. Whoever was in the vent was now in my room. The police arrived within minutes. They checked my apartment and didn't find anyone. Then they accessed the attic crawl space that ran above several units. It was tight and dusty and barely tall enough to crouch, but what they found in there made my skin crawl. Someone had been living up there. There was a sleeping bag, a stack of granola bar wrappers, empty water bottles, and a small pile of personal items that belonged to me. Hair ties, receipts I had thrown away, and a single sock that I thought I had lost in the laundry. There was also a flashlight, a cheap one, with dying batteries. Then they found a phone. The phone wasn't locked. Inside were dozens of photos taken through the vent. Photos of my room. Photos of me asleep. Photos of me changing. Photos of me working on my laptop. All taken from the same angle, through the vent above my bed. I didn't sleep for 2 days after that. I stayed at a friend's place while I packed up my belongings. The police never caught the person. They think he entered the attic crawl space through an unlatched maintenance door on the roof. None of us knew how long he'd been up there, or how many times he had climbed down into my house. I moved to a different part of the city, installed cameras, and bought metal vent covers with screws. I check every closet when I get home, and I still wake up sometimes thinking that I'm hearing tapping. Maybe it's nothing now, but it wasn't nothing before. People laugh at my paranoia, but paranoia is just awareness sharpened by experience. When something feels wrong in your own home, do not ignore it. I wish I hadn't. Alrighty guys, that was tonight's story. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Remember to always check your vents when you get home because you never know if somebody's living up there. And let me know if you guys like this. I have plenty more stories that I can share that I'm finding online. So I will see you guys on the next one. Good night.
So since it's Halloween season, and me personally, I love spookiness. I love all the spookies. I'm gonna tell y'all a scary paranormal story that happened to me. When I was a kid, back in my family house, this was probably in the late 2000s. My sister and my mom at the time, they were experiencing a lot of weird things in the house, especially my sister. I never really believed them because I didn't really have anything happen to me. But they were having these experiences. They were seeing things, hearing things. I just, thought that they were dramatic, whatever, until something happened to me that I can't explain. So in our house, we had a basement, like most houses in Michigan do. And the basement is where a lot of the so-called activity was happening. Mind you, me and my sister's rooms, our bedrooms were both in the basement. And it was in the late afternoon. I was just in my room. I think I was either doing homework or watching YouTube, whatever. And my bedroom door, it had like the push lock, the one that you push in. But if you open the door from the inside, it'll immediately release that push lock. And I'm sitting in my room. Mind you, when you're in my room, you can see the door from the bed. Like I have a view of the door. I am in my room and I see, immediately I feel weird. Like I feel like someone's watching me. And then I look over and I see the doorknob turning and that push lock release. The door was fully shut. That push lock will not open unless somebody twists the doorknob. I see the doorknob actually twist as if someone is opening it and the door flings open. I am so freaked out. Probably for about a minute, I'm just frozen in fear. Like I didn't move. I was just so shocked from what I had seen. And I finally get the courage to get up and walk around out of my room, and there's nobody downstairs. I go upstairs. Nobody. There was nobody home at the time. This was like around like 4 p.m. So we had gotten home from school, but our parents were still at work, but my sister wasn't home. So there was literally nobody home. I asked them later, were you guys in the basement? Did somebody open my door? They were like, no. So that is genuinely something I can't explain. I literally watched the doorknob open by itself as if somebody was turning it.
Good morning. Story time about the weirdest, most creepiest interaction I have ever had with a man in my life. So this was a couple of years ago. I'm running errands on the street. I meet this guy. He gets my number. I find out he's 28. He finds out I'm 19. He had no qualms with the fact that I was 19. And me being a dumb 19-year-old, I was like, 28's not too old. So we start chatting. One night, he invites me and my girl out to the club, right? So her and I go out. I'm chit-chatting with him. She's chit-chatting with his boy, blah, blah, blah. He goes, do you know why I was like initially attracted to you? Like, do you know why I stopped you? And yeah, I love a good little compliment. Sue me. So I was like, what? What did you like about me? He says, your skin. All right. Elaborate. He goes, you have the same skin as my brother. At this point, I'm perplexed. I'm drunk, right? I'm sitting here talking to a dark-skinned man. And so I'm like, your blood brother? And he's like, yeah. And I'm like your full brother? Like you guys have the same parents? He's like, yeah. So I go, was he albino? And he says, why would he be albino? And I'm like, you're right, King. You got it. So we're there talking about family, whatever. I'm like, oh, how old is your brother? He starts sobbing in the club. And I'm like, and he says, he would have been whatever age. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry to hear that. Like, that's horrible. How long ago did he pass? And he goes, 20 years ago. Okay, so we're crying in the club. This is exactly how I envisioned my night to go. So I'm sitting there trying to comfort him, and he leans in to kiss me, and me, I'm drunk. My reaction time is not as great as it normally is, and I felt bad for him. So I didn't have time to, and I didn't want to push him away, because I felt bad. He leans in for a kiss like this. Doing that. But the worst part wasn't even the fact that I had to suck on his fucking tongue like that. The worst part was that his tongue was soaked in peach Ciroc. To this day, I cannot drink peach Ciroc. I eventually push him off. I'm like, okay, that's enough. It's good. It's great. That's enough. And he goes, I just love your skin so much. You just remind me of my brother. Enough. Cut it the fuck out. Enough. And he's still got tears running down his cheeks. So, whatever. He tries to make me go home with him that night, and I'm like, no, I'm good. I gotta go to sleep. So, I go home. The next morning, I wake up. I see he's responding to my Snapchat story. I take a look at what he said. He said, I want to get to know you better. Let's go out for drinks. I just love your skin so much. Cut it out. That is enough. I am so happy I did not go home with him that night, because I would have woken up in his basement, skinned alive, with him wearing my skin as a suit. Do you know how fucking creepy that is? Now, don't get me wrong. I get a fair bit of compliments on my skin, but normally it's because of my freckles. People say, I like your freckles. Cool. I'm used to it. Never in my life have I had a man generally like my skin as much as this guy did, and relate me to his dead brother. What the fuck? So I blocked him immediately, because I'm like, this is a murder waiting to happen. This is fucking crazy. I just pray that no pale woman with freckles ever comes in contact with this man again. He probably has a collection of skin grafts in a trophy case above his bed. But yeah, that was how that went. That was weird as fuck.
What the fuck was that? Bro!
What's going on around you?
I don't know. I'm frozen. I am frozen.
Did the window
Sean.
break?
Do you guys want to hear a scary story that really happened to me? And this isn't a joke or anything. This is like an actual true story. It involves a dead person. Okay, now that I got your attention. So this one time when I was in college, there was this place that we like to go swimming. It was the gorge, not the gorge. I wouldn't call it the gorge, but it was like underneath a bridge, and it was water, and it was like a river that came down from the mountains. So one night after I got out of work, my boyfriend and I at the time decided that we were going to go swimming down there. Why? I don't know. We were teenagers, young kids, whatever. So we ended up going down there. It's pitch black, obviously. We have to have flashlights because it's dark. We go down there, and it's kind of like a hike to go. So you have to walk, and then you go down like some rocks, and it's kind of dangerous, and you really shouldn't go down there at night, whatever. You really shouldn't go down there at all. But we go down there, and we finally get to like the sand part where you can walk into the water. And so like we're swimming, we're giggling, we're messing around, we're throwing rocks and being stupid. And then all of a sudden like my foot hits something, and Yeah, you know when you like hit seaweed in the ocean and you're like, ah, it freaks you out? Well, that's what I did. I freaked out. It didn't feel like a rock. It didn't feel like a log. It just felt squishy. So I couldn't even guess what it was. So obviously we get scared. We get out. We go back to my house and the night was over. The next day on the news, they found a dead body that had washed up on the sand park that we were at. And it was an older man. And of course, at that point, I'm freaking out. I'm thinking I left like a hair fiber down there. They're gonna be able to measure my footprint in the sand. I'm gonna be connected to this random person's death. I wasn't, but I was thinking that. But yeah, to this day, I think that whatever I hit with my foot was the dead body. Yeah.